And the first thing it kind of like triggered me is when I read that cyanide is in almonds. And I
Mhm.
heard that. I was like, wait a second. I was eating almonds every day, a handful of almonds, drinking almond milk and stuff. I'm like, cyanide? I'm like,
Mhm.
this can't be. So I found that. So that was like a trigger that I said, if a toxin is in a plant, and maybe if it's not even traceable if you're eating small amounts of almonds, but is a little bit of cyanide good? It
Mhm.
can't be. A little bit of cyanide can't be good long term. And I don't think there's any studies on this. Long term effects of eating small amounts of almonds for,
Oh,
let's
there
say,
are.
30, 40 years.
There
Is
absolutely
there?
are. Oh yeah. No, it causes neurological damage and thyroid dysfunction. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, because we have a lot of data on, especially in the tropics, on because they rely a lot on cassava, and cassava is teeming with cyanide. So there's sweet cassava and bitter cassava. Bitter cassava has so much cyanide it'll just kill you, and
right.
so they have to treat it and reduce the amount of cyanide in there. But it doesn't eliminate all the cyanide in it, and the sweet cassava has some cyanide in it, just like almonds have some cyanide in it. But like 2 pounds of almonds in a day can kill you,
Right.
right? So it's not trace, like it's there, and so yeah, so long term low dose exposure to cyanide can cause neurological damage, thyroid dysfunction, and other end organ damage as well, especially in those who are protein deficient, that aren't meeting
Mm,
um, you know their 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 protein requirements. And the thing is that we look at these protein requirements and we look at, oh yeah, I'm sort of getting that. I'm almost there. Those are not a maximum. That's not a like, yes, you filled your requirement for today. That's a bloody minimum. And a lot of people are looking at that as like, oh, if I get enough of that or near that, then that's good enough. No, you want way past that. And so
mm,
a lot of people are getting below that. And so especially in tropics, especially in these third world countries, it's a huge problem because cassava is the third most important calorie source in all the tropics, and it is the primary calorie source for a half a billion people around the world, or maybe 750 million. Yeah, between half a billion and three-quarters of a billion people. So it's a major problem. I was actually speaking to a patient about this the other day, and I haven't corroborated this number, but they were saying that they had looked this up and that the WHO had said that maximum safe, acceptable dose of cyanide in a foodstuff, in a food product, was like 10 milligrams a day, or whatever that's what they said. So I don't know exactly what that is, but that was what they're saying. The point is that there is a limit. They're saying, well, it's maximum this, but there's tapioca flour, which comes from cassava and has cyanide in it, and there's cassava chips. You go to Bali or in Indonesia,
hmm
it's just bags of cassava chips, right? And
mm,
almonds, obviously. Nowhere on those packages does it say, hey, this is how much cyanide this contains. Don't eat more than 2 bags in a day, or you'll reach your limit for
mm,
cyanide. Nowhere says that. And of course, no one would buy that crap if they had, hey, this is your maximum amount of
right.
cyanide that you can have today. And so, and also, they don't, who's checking? No one's checking these things. So there are
Right.
no safeguards, there's no controls, and there's no warning for anybody that, hey, this has cyanide, this is how much cyanide, and this is how much their maximum is, and so don't have more than this. There are no safeguards, there's no safety rails on any of this stuff, and that's just cyanide. They have that upper limit for cyanide. But what about all the other toxins that are in plant? What
Right.
about solanine? Solanine kills people, and yet no warning labels about solanine on tomatoes or potatoes, eggplants, peppers, all these sorts of things, or how much is safe, and what to do if you get too much of a dose. So yeah, it's pretty shocking actually that we're allowed to put all this garbage in there. There are known maximums of certain things, and yet nowhere does it say what that maximum is, or even that there's a toxin in there that has a maximum, which I think is absolutely just completely out of bounds. I mean, this is actually damaging people. It's clearly is damaging people.
Yeah, and you'll see the like the pharmaceuticals, the drugs will have those warnings. We would say, well, don't take too much
Mm,
medication, or street drugs, like don't do too much heroin or cocaine because it's a toxin. And
mm,
when I read about the cyanide, I didn't see those studies. I just knew. I'm like, it has to accumulate in the body. It's going to accumulate in the cells, in the tissue, in the brain. You can't keep eating cyanide and not have it affect you.
Yeah,
And
definitely not.
intuitively, I said, no freaking way. And then when I read about the oxalates, and you'll hear people say, well, don't eat the leaves of a rhubarb plant because it's highly toxic. If you ate a few leaves, you'd be dead. Well, wait a second. What about spinach?
Mhm.
4 grams of spinach, or I think 3.5 grams of spinach can kill you. Here, I'm blending about 600 to maybe 1,000 milligrams of spinach a day because I'm blending it and chugging it.
Well,
So I'm getting a
grams of oxalates, I think is the
oxalates,
lethal dose. Yeah,
right?
it's like 3.54 grams of oxalates.
Yeah,
Be a lethal
and
dose.
I'm getting maybe 1,000 milligrams. I'm getting a third of that. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh dear God. I'm like, this is insane. So I'm like, done with spinach, done with almonds. And that's what once I learned that, because that's a simple, I mean, everyone eats spinach. We hear spinach is good. Spinach is the deep greens, it's good for you. I put my foot on the brake and I said, whoa, wait a second. I got to go down this rabbit hole. I got to start looking into this. And when I just looked up, and I think it was you or Dr. Baker said, just get a botany book and look up plants.
Yeah.
And every you Google this, and it will say plants have toxins, inner toxins built into them. Because my patients would say, yeah, but that's the spray. I said, no, the spray on is just excess. You eat organic spinach, it's bad for you. And if it's a little bit bad, why even do it? When I eat my steak from my farm, my cows are grass fed. All they do eat is grass and hay in the wintertime and drink well water. There's no toxicity level. When they eat the greens, it processes through their body so it doesn't convert into oxalates into my body. I get pure meat, but I get all the nutrients. And I thought, why why have to eat the plants then? This doesn't make any sense. So that just I hopefully, if you hear this, go do your research and start looking at this and find the science. And if you find the science, you'll see how clear it is. It's irrefutable. And that's what blew me away is why haven't I learned this before? I've gone to conferences and would get speakers. And when my podcast for like a year and a half, I did over 150 episodes. And that's where I found Professor Noakes and Belinda Fetke. And I started hearing these people, but majority of people would say, eat a plant-based diet. Get your greens, get your vegetables. It was the same thing over and over. And I got sick of it. I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
done with the podcast. So yeah, the research and the science is out there if you dig into it. And if you just hear that one thing about the cyanide, shouldn't it trigger you to say, wait a second, where is more? And that's what it did for me.
Yeah. Well,